Hello, my name is Gloria, and this is Project 2 Teachback on analyzing the art and story of Fantastic Four. I decided to do my Teachback on the character introduction, the second page of the Fantastic Four. Of all the comics we read this week, the one that really caught my eye was the Fantastic Four comic. It had a different stylistic view and use of colors that differentiated from the rest of the comics that we saw. That probably was because it was a more recent comic compared to the others that we reviewed this week. And going in, we have some stylistic choices here. The first thing that really drew me into this was the use of color and how important scenes that the author of the Fantastic Four, the author and artist, the scenes they wanted you to focus on are highlighted in a different color from the rest, and it really draws the reader's focus. Like here in this first panel, we have Susan's friend, who she's having tea with, highlighted in yellow, which makes it stand out a little from the page. Of course, all the colors here are really saturated, but still, using a color separate from the rest within its panel, something that typically the character wouldn't be in, kind of gives it an eye-catching view. Or here when Susan is walking out the door, it highlights the background here. And also, one thing that I found interesting was the use of color with the cab driver here. On the next page of the Fantastic Four, he actually turns slightly different shades of this color, and it kind of signifies his rising shock of seeing the dollar bill. Another thing I found interesting in stylistic choice here was the use of dotted lines to signify that Susan is invisible. To me, it seemed like making a character invisible would have been a new and novel thing, so the use of dotted lines really makes it stand out, and giving her different color makes it show like, hey, this is something different, a little eye-catching, and lets you follow Susan easily throughout the scene, like here. Oh, that cut off a little. The next thing I wanted to touch on was paneling and pacing. The previous four panels had a more traditional panel setup. The top three were similar in size, followed by an establishing shot of the fourth showing Susan walking through all the people and everyone going, oh my gosh, there's someone there, but I can't see them. This section of the panel here breaks the mold. The first panel is closed off. It's got this border around it, and it's followed by this open shot, which kind of gives it a little more freedom look, like the car is coming in out of a different panel, like there's no gap, as you can see here, and it almost seems to merge or come out of this third panel here. And the break between the final panel and the third panel here gives readers a pause, like a moment to stop and react along with the cab driver. It gives the reader a moment to go, hey, that's a floating dollar that the cab driver is feeling. It kind of gives him a pause to, I guess, process that shock that the cab driver would have been feeling. And finally, I wanted to touch on narrative. This panel, it's not the first page, but I would consider this almost as if it was the first page of Fantastic Four, for how well it establishes the comic and the sense of feel and mood for it. It's technically the second page, but it does a great job to convey the narrative of the beginning and give us a sense of who Susan is. We start off by seeing Susan here with her friend, but realizing that it is a time of need where she is needed, she turns invisible and kind of leaves. And it gives us like a sense of who she is as she's testing out her power here, making sure she is invisible with the cab driver, as we see. And she's just moving along, knowing she's needed somewhere. In conclusion, the second page of Fantastic Four does a great job, again, introducing the readers to how the rest of the comic will likely follow through with the use of coloring and paneling and narrative. It's, again, as I say, I consider it more of a first establishing page. Thank you.